Alright, all you insomniatic ghost story lovers out there tonight, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us once again to crack open Mother Goose's Black Book of Tales for another edition of the Mother Goose's Untold Tales. And the story we have up on the plate for you this week is none other than the most gruesome story we have in the book thus far of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And before we begin reading this story, like we said before as a warning, viewer discretions have been advised. And for those wondering why we say that so much, here's the reason why. For those out there who heard the classic tale of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, of Goldilocks going into that house, sleeping in their beds, eating their porridge, and not coming out unscathed, well, Mother Goose has lied to you once again while you're sipping on those juice boxes, getting comfortable to go to sleep in the middle of the night, and yeah, really did pull an okey doke, as my uncle would say, and pulled the wool right over your eyes. 'Cause the real story is this. After what happened with Grandma in the woods, the mayor of this woodland forest-like town would decide to say to all of the creatures of carnivore-like steak that they could not eat any form of other woodland creatures or people who lived in the forest or face serious consequences or exile from their very home. And the person who overheard this meeting that the mayor would say would be young little Goldilocks, who was actually a girl who didn't have a home, a place to live, and was overly rebellious was the reason why in the world this all happened to her, but would take full advantage and carte blanche of this rule to break into every single house that she could see in her sights in the woods for none of the animals to do anything about it. Until the new residents came into town that went by the name of Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear, the Three Bears. And if you're wondering at home, these bears did not have names. Yeah, strange enough, the Three Bears did not have names. They just went by Mama, Papa, and Baby. That was it. And besides that, folks, to set up more of a preface of this story, when the new bears made their way into town, they were warned to keep their lights off, their doors locked, and keep all of their belongings locked in their house so nobody could steal them, mainly Goldilocks. And after the Three Bears heard this and said, "There's no way in the world I'm locking my stuff up in my own home. I spend good money to live here. I'm not locking the thing up. Let her come into our house and see what happens." And the mayor would warn them saying, "You do realize what will happen if you decide to do what I think you're gonna do." And the bear would say, "I know. We came here for a reason. And for a meal." Now, the mayor laughed it off, thinking that it was a joke, that he was really gonna eat a little girl, and just thought it was all just a massive joke, until one fateful night after Goldilocks, with her burlap sack filled with a whole bunch of goodies from all the houses that she shook down in the middle of the night and stole their possessions, saw the house glowing like a homing beacon, with lights on, doors open, windows open, everything that she possibly could dream of in that house, and decided to say, "Jackpot," and roll right into the house of the Three Bears. Now, the Three Bears that night was actually on the riverside planning this trap for Goldilocks. And Goldilocks would fall for it hook, line, and sinker. And unbeknownst to Goldilocks, the second she went into the house, the bell that they had for an alarm system would ring and would be tripped by the bell that was right by the lake that they heard. And the second they heard that bell, they knew it was showtime, but decided to wait and see how far Goldilocks really was gonna go. And boy, oh boy, did she go the distance in this house. Not only did she go over toward the table and eat their porridge, saying that it was too cold, too hot, but just right, and scarfed it all down right there. Then she would go into the chair and watch TV on their very expensive television set on each one of their very expensive chairs, saying one was too lumpy, one was too soft, and the baby bear chair was just right, before actually taking the remote and throwing it through the TV and laughing about it. Just laughing about it. And then after a long day of watching TV around the hours of 4:15 to 4:35 in the morning, yes, the police did take down the times this all happened, she would go all the way upstairs toward the bedroom to try to sleep off the makeshift porridge meal that she stole, and would go to each one of the beds saying, this bed's too hard, this bed's too soft, but this bed is just right. And in that just right bed, folks, she would fall asleep into a deadly slumber, and this would be the last sleep that she would ever take. Because the three bears, now realizing that the upstairs light from the river that they saw was now off because she turned the lights off, they would make their move. They would go inside the house, realize their stuff on the first floor was trashed, their chairs were broken, their porridge was eaten, and they said, they're going upstairs for revenge. Who in the world does she think she is? And then Mama Bear and Papa Bear, who had nocturnal vision to see in the dark because they're natural born hunters, went up the stairs, told Baby Bear to shh. And as they went up the stairs into the room, saw her in the dead of night inside of their home, inside of their bed, that's when Papa Bear decided to strike first. Goldilocks did try to run, I do give her credit for that, but unfortunately, after getting slashed in the back and having her spinal cord severed, she could not run much further than that window to try to bang on it multiple times crying for help, only for nobody to be awake at that time of the night because the town didn't wake up until approximately 7:38 that morning. So with the time currently being 5:28 in the morning, and the only thing to hear her cries for help were the birds, and the birds didn't want anything to do with this, they would watch on in horror from that window as that white room would turn red with the blood of Goldilocks being torn limb from Mama Bear and Papa Bear, ripping her to shreds. And Baby Bear, in his horror, for the first time seeing something like this in his life, would be able to see through the keyhole of Mama Bear and Papa Bear ripping her in half and flinging her around the room like a rag doll, all before digesting poor little Goldilocks whole. Or in two halves in this case. And Baby Bear, who was horrified by this whole situation, would then see the door swing open for Mama Bear and Papa Bear to invite him in for his first real meal of human flesh. And after seeing this whole display, Baby Bear, who was curious as a little bear at his age, would join in on the meal, finishing the rest of the remains of Goldilocks, leaving only 3 strands of golden hair on the ground, along with Goldilocks' scalp that was picked clean, for them to go away into the morning sun, only for the police and the mayor to find the house covered in the blood of Goldilocks with all their items on the side of the front lawn of the house. And the moral of this story, folks? Well, not only it's the golden rule of do unto others as you want them to do unto you, but it's also an old phrase I heard from a family member of mine, and that is, sometimes you bite the bear, and sometimes the bear bites you. And with that said, folks, wraps it up for another very gruesome edition of the Mother Goose's Untold Tales. And join us next time, folks, when we bring you one final tale from the month of horror that we have from Mother Goose's Black Book, which is none other than The Gingerbread Man. Is this story about as horrifying as the rest of them? Or is it the same tale that Mother Goose told you when you were a kid? Find out next week. And with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to go ahead and head back into this music, and when we return, we'll be back with yet another edition of the Indie Report right after this. So don't go watching those monster movies just yet, folks, and stay tuned.